PR Connections Radio presents
I think I'm live. Good afternoon. My name is Cozy Stone. Welcome back to another edition of Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the Parent Edition. If you're out, and season two, I may add, if you're looking at my face, that it's Tuesday, Pacific, 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and I have for you today another non parent. So if you would please take a deep breath and let it out, I'll be right back.
Cozy Stone is a multi-talented comedian extraordinaire who has a real lust for life. She also combines humor and motivation, where she is known as a humorvational speaker. Her youthful ways and positive light make her a beacon for those of all ages. Cozy has lived a remarkable life that has paved the way for so many. She had the longest running open mic venue of 11 years at Tommy Rockers in Vegas, called Cozy's Comedy Corner, through which she introduced many up-and-coming comedians. Before going into comedy, she was one of the first female personal trainers and one of the top fitness trainers in the world. She has trained many greats such as Billie Jean King, Roberta Flack, Andrew Young, Ed Bradley, CCH Pounder, Al Pacino, and Earl Monroe. As a former competitive bodybuilder, she also owned a bodybuilding gym for women over 40 in Los Angeles for several years. She has worked in top positions for HBO, Playboy, and Tony Robbins. She also enjoys volunteer work, dedicating time to the New York Foundling Hospital and babies with AIDS. Cozy Stone has a message that shouldn't be missed.
Okay, if you'd be kind enough to bring me my non-parent guest today, Miss Renee Talmadge. How are you, Renee?
I am good. How are you, Cozy?
I am wonderful, and thank you for joining us today. Before we get started, Renee, I like to say to my audience, as a rule, about parenting. So, what I'd like to say about my guest and the guest I'll have on in the future, contrary to popular belief, every woman with a womb was not put on this earth to be a parent or to want to be a parent. They can be a parent, but I want to start promoting and talking about those of us who have decided, for whatever reason, it just wasn't something we wanted to do. And as we look at the world at large, for some of those who did maybe take this conscious decision and stick with it, why not talk about and let the world at large hear those of us, and it's a good deal of us, who just decided we'd rather be aunts or have dogs or cats or what have you, instead of bringing another human being into this world. So again, this is my second non-parent. The show may be a little skewed because I'm working around it, but let's start off, Renee, with where were your parents born and raised, and where did they meet?
My dad was from Apollo, Pennsylvania. My mom was actually born in Indiana, but moved here to Denver when they were kids, little kids. So she grew up here in Denver. My dad joined the Army. I'm sorry, the Air Force. Let me correct myself. The Air Force, and he was stationed out here, and that's how they met. They ended up meeting at church and getting married.
And how old were they?
My mother was 18, and my dad was just 20.
Okay. Are you their first child?
No, I am their second child.
Okay. So how old were they when they had, how old was your mom when she had her first child?
Um, let's see, my mom would have been, I think she was 32. No, she was younger than that. She had me when she was 32. So my sister, she would have had my sister when she was 29.
Okay. All right. So you had a parent who was a, let's call it just a more mature parent.
Yes.
So let's get to you. And you were also born and raised in Denver.
Yes.
Did you do any babysitting? Did you have younger nephews or nieces or cousins that were under you that you babysat for?
I didn't babysit my cousins, but I did babysit quite a bit for neighbors and things like that close around me. My cousins were too far away at the time for me to babysit for them, but um, so from when I was like 13, I would babysit a lot for neighbors.
Okay. And then I ask that because even when I have, again, you're the second parent, non-parent, my question is, did you have any involvement at all with children? Which prompts my next question. Give me two reasons and the age that you decided this may not be, if you remember, when you decided this may not be for you.
Um, I think I was pretty young, but I lived on my own from the time I was 15.
Okay.
So I didn't want to bring a child into that type of lifestyle that I was bouncing around, and I didn't want to be a single mom with a baby in tow trying to figure out her life. Single moms have it hard, and I just didn't want to be in that position.
Have you ever been married and or engaged?
I have been engaged. I was engaged for a little while to a gentleman, but he ended up being too demanding of my time that it just didn't work out.
So you never got to the point in the discussion of having children.
Not with him, no.
Okay.
No.
Did you ever have anyone that you dated that you discussed having children with? He wanted to have children with you.
No, I did not.
Okay. And conversely, same question. You did not date anyone that you wanted to be father of your child.
No.
So since you left home you said left home at 15, correct?
Yes.
So you never had to have, or did you ever have the conversation with your mom about, I'm never going to have children? Did that come up from either one of you?
Well, my mother passed when I was 10, so no, that never came up with us. And that brings another reason that I never wanted to have kids, because my mother passed when she was 42. So I always, in the back of my mind, felt like I was going to pass when I was 42.
Wow.
It was one of those, just, the fear in the back of your mind. So that was another reason that I didn't ever want to have kids, because I thought I was going to die young.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, as we grow up as girls, women, ladies, whatever we call ourselves, we have this conversation with our friends. I remember in high school, they started getting pregnant, first of all. And, as you're growing up, it sort of comes up, even as virgins, children. Can you remember having conversations with your friends when your teenage friends started having kids? Did you ever have a conversation, or did they ever say to you, well, Renee, what kind of kid do you have? How old do you want to be? Did you ever have that conversation with anyone?
Surprisingly, no. My friends never asked me anything about me ever having kids. Nobody, my aunts, uncles, nobody ever asked me, when are you going to have kids? So it's kind of interesting looking back that nobody ever actually asked me, when are you going to have kids, or are you going to have kids?
All right. So that was a pressure that you didn't have to have, as well as telling yourself this just isn't something I wanted to do.
Right.
And I may have asked you, did indicate you had another sibling. Do you in fact have any nephews and nieces?
Yes, I have a 32-year-old niece who has two little babies that I actually babysit for.
Okay.
And then my sister got married later in life and had two more kids. So I have another nephew and niece that are in their teen years.
Okay. So you did get to spend time around children.
Yes.
Okay. And
Lots.
again, I like to ask that because, I don't want people to think, oh, who cares what people think? As long as we're on this earth, somehow, some way, we still get to spend time around children. They could be, myself, I do public speaking. Yes, I've got nephews, nieces. I have a whole bunch of friends with children. Did you have friends with, I want to say a lot of children, but did most of your friends have children?
Yeah, most of them do. Like one of my cousins that I grew up with, she got married young, had 2 kids, got a divorce, remarried, had another 2 kids. So, and I've been around her kids from the time they were little. I feel like they're aunts. Um, and all of most of my friends are my cousins. So, most of my cousins have had kids, and I've always been like an aunt to them. So,
All right. So I'm going to get into your questions. And again, audience, I'm working with these questions I put together, so please bear with me. So this is again my question, but this one you've chosen. And the question is, are you happier without children? And I think the question should be phrased, are you happy? Now, let's leave it without like that. I mean, I know we can't say to ourselves, well, I don't know because I didn't have kids, but we
right.
still have an idea of what a child would do and how it would affect our lives. So that's why I did pose the question that way. Do you feel like you are happier? Now you're 50.
Yes.
So there's no ringing the bell. I'm ringing the bell. Do
Right.
you feel that you're happier without having children? I guess the question is, do you have any regrets?
Actually, no, I don't have any regrets. The way the world is right now with all the craziness going on, I would not want to see my child having to worry about possibly getting drafted or, getting caught up in drugs and alcohol, the way the fentanyl is going now. And, so I have no regrets that I did not bring a child into this world that I have to worry about.
All right. And so your answer sort of goes into the next question, and I'm going to rephrase that. If, in fact, you were a parent, and we'll just say today because you brought up today's norms, what would you do different? What would you do with your child that you think some parents have done? What would you do as a parent if you were?
Oh, I would, well, my problem is I would probably try and keep them too sheltered to where they would want to bust out, because I would want to protect them from everything. And I know that's impossible. So I think that would be my main thing, is I would be like overprotective
Okay.
and worried.
Okay. Let's see. Your next question, because the question was your thoughts on the societal stress and norms regarding parenthood. What are some of your thoughts on the raisings and the norms of parenthood today? Without bashing today's parents, your personal opinion.
Right.
People, her personal opinion.
I think parents have it really hard nowadays. The school system, you don't know half the time what's happening in the schools with your kid, because they can get in trouble. But it's so well, like medical, we'll just take medical for example. With HIPAA laws, you don't know what's going on with your child's medical history. The library, if your child has their own library card, you can't get the history of what they've checked out. So I think it's really hard as a parent to know what your kids are into nowadays, because of the internet and how easy it is to get and navigate. And they're savvy enough to delete their history and all of this stuff. So I think I have a tremendous respect for parents because they have so many aspects that they have to deal with to even try and keep their children somewhat safe. You know, I mean, you sit in front of the computer and the world is open to you.
Okay. Your next question is, you're the first one that's answered this. I thought I was going to take it off, but since it's one of your questions, here it goes. Sex. Do you love it, like it, or no response?
Oh, honey, I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, if I met the right man again, there's no doubt that that's something that would be top of my list.
Okay.
But
Okay. And I put that question in there because, again, talk to a lot of women, talk to a lot of everybody's, and I'm constantly amazed at the number of women who really just don't like sex. You got kids, you got to accomplish that goal. So, but at the end of the day, well, do you want sex? Do you like sex? No. So I'd like to ask that of us as single parents. Is it something that interests you? And the answer is yes. Your next question is, I think I know the answer, but maybe you'll fool me. What replaces parenthood in your life? What are your other interests?
oh, replacing parenthood, you know the answer. It's my doggies. We actually have 5 dogs right now. So yeah, I have 2 of them downstairs with me, and 2 of them belong to my cousin and 1 to my uncle. So we have 5 dogs in the house. But yeah, so I'm a doggy parent.
Okay. Well, my last guest was a doggy parent too. I'm going to have to look and see if all of my non-parents are doggy parents, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And the other question is, you sort of, well, no. What advice would you give to young people, and I'm going to be specific, to a young lady today about parenthood or about becoming a parent?
Be prepared, because looking back at seeing like my niece grow up and knowing how my sister was with my mother and father, be prepared, because the things that you did to your parents, your daughter or your son, they're going to do it to you.
That's hilarious. So what you're saying is, what goes around comes around.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So here's another question. Now we're off of yours. These are some of my own.
Okay.
Do you think you are selfish or selfless?
I think I'm in the middle. There are times that I'm selfless and there's times that I'm selfish. It was probably selfish of me to not have a kid on one hand, but on the other hand, it was selfless because a kid growing up in today's society has it really hard.
Mm-hmm. And that's a question that I want to answer, to get more into. Do you think it's a bad thing to be selfish?
No, I don't. I think that you have to take care of yourself. There is a fine line that people can be too selfish, but I do believe that you should be a little selfish and take care of yourself and protect yourself. And, there's nobody else is going to do it for you.
And I want to take it a little further in terms of your response of, you did not didn't know what your tomorrows were going to be. That is a very big topic of thought when you are having irresponsible sex, and I say it every show, and I'll say it every show, and not taking that into consideration in the midst of the moment, the groan of the moment of, gosh, I can't afford this. I haven't finished school. I don't have a bank account. I can't afford a baby crib. I have no idea what medical will be if my child is not born healthy. I don't even know this person. How's that for a selfish thought? And I heard something a few days ago about selfish, and they were saying some of the things that I thought about. And the world at large, just society, them wants to pin stuff on us and make us believe what they want us to believe. And we as individuals have a right, if we've got enough brains and common sense, to say, it just doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this show is about. It's for you. It's for the men and women that will be on here who consciously decided it just wouldn't have worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
I have, let's see. Hold on. All right. So you may have answered this, but here's another, it may be phrased a different way. You didn't want to be a parent. So do you believe committing to your role created failure or doubts about whether you would have been a good parent?
I don't feel like a failure about not being a
Whether
parent.
you would, would you have been a failure?
I think I would have been an okay parent, but I would have had to have so much help from family and friends, and it's because I don't see myself as married with a kid. So I don't look back and think, oh, this could have been.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Well, there's another question. Did you ever want to be married?
to one gentleman.
Okay. So the answer is yes, you could have seen yourself married had he acted correctly.
Had he acted correctly, yes.
All right. So you did see yourself, you saw yourself as a wife. And as you saw yourself as a wife, at that point, did you also see yourself as a parent, as a mom?
No, I never envisioned myself holding a baby.
Hmm.
It was never part of my thought process on anything.
Did you stay together with this gentleman long enough for that conversation to come about?
No.
Okay. Okay. Because then the other part of that conversation, the B part of that A question is, did he want to become a parent? Oftentimes, again, for me, just talking to people, and we all see it every day, people get married and or get together and they don't want the same thing. So,
Mhm.
for the woman who wants a child, and most men will tell you they don't really want them, but then there are a good deal of them that take care of them, and they're great dads. But I say this every day: if men had to have children, we would have no overpopulated society.
That's
It's not something they grow up, most of them wanting, right?
right.
Yeah, we know what they want. They're not
Right.
necessarily trying to have kids. Okay, I am going to, let's see, let me find another question for you. Do you think, if you can, giving birth is a traumatic experience?
Um,
How do you see it? Do you see it as a
no,
traumatic?
I think it would be very natural. I know some people who had traumatic experiences
Mhm.
that ended up having difficulties, health wise, that they had to either have a C-section, emergency C-section, or uh, like my cousin's daughter actually had, I don't remember the name of it, but it's where your blood pressure skyrockets.
Mhm.
And she had to be taken by copter to a hospital,
Mhm.
and they had to deliver the baby, and the baby was in the hospital for like 3 months, 4 months after the birth.
Okay, but here's where I'm trying to go with this.
Okay.
When you decided at 15, whatever you said at 15, pretty much you knew you didn't.
Yeah.
Even as women, even though I know I didn't, I took all of this into consideration, the finance, the responsibility, the delivery, the fatness. So I had one lady on here. I asked her what was the worst, and she said her getting fat. I wouldn't have liked the fat at all. Um, these are things that I want to ask the women who have decided, even if we decided we did not want to give birth, we knew what birth was. We knew how. We knew the procedure. We knew the 9 months. We knew the morning sickness. We knew the swelling breast. We knew the colic that came afterwards, the diaper rash. Did you not even think about any of this? You didn't even go that far.
I didn't even go that far. I never even considered
Any
having
of that.
any of it. It was enough that I had to deal with monthly stuff that women have to deal with. The fact of all the rest of it, from babysitting, that's just changing diapers and colic and all of that. No,
And
not
but that's why I ask about the babysitting. Through the babysitting, see, we still have to be around kids.
right.
Even if we're looking at somebody else change the diaper, even if we're looking at the vomit that's on that silk blouse, boys see it, girls see it, but we know we can have this human being messing up our clothes and our lives. Oh, let me say that differently. Messing up our clothes. So I like to ask the women who decided there are factors. And yours, again, was I didn't want to be a single mom. I didn't want to find myself surviving by myself. I only met one man I wanted to marry and still didn't want to have kids with him. It sounds like because you left home and you grew up quick, you were not giving up your freedom.
Yeah,
And you have not mentioned that word at all.
that's true. That's true, because there is, I guess I never really thought about the fact of giving up my freedom. I just thought that there wasn't enough of me to be able to handle all of it.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, giving up your freedom that is a huge step.
Number one comes underneath that.
Right? It does. It does.
In fact, I think it's above fat for me. It's like, and then there's freedom. Which one don't I want? I don't want
Right.
that, but I'd rather keep my freedom.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think we've done another good job of having a non-parent on here, just explaining again to the world at large that I enjoy. As a female, I understand it's not for everyone. You did not allow society, friends, family, or man to push you, convince you, connive you into doing something that you knew would not make you happy at the end of the day.
Right.
And we believe it or not, people, we get to choose our happiness. We get to choose our paths. We get to choose our destiny. And if we give it enough thought, if at the end of all of the thinking and the consideration and all that we talk about, this is something you want to do, and the sacrifices and the all of what you have to give up, that's what you want to do, God bless you. Please do a great job. If you hear when the non-parents say, I didn't want to give up my freedom. I realized I didn't want to have a parent by myself. I realized that I didn't want to take all of the time it takes and all the consideration, the colic, the medical, the losing teeth, you name it, the homework. It's a big deal. So
Yes.
as I thank the parents that come on here from doing their jobs, who are doing a fabulous job, I want to thank you, the non-parent, for not giving us another gangbanger, for not bringing another human being in this world and not doing your job because you realized it wasn't the job that you wanted to do. Let's ask you a fun question.
Okay.
And I hope this is it. Would you rather be, that's not your question. I know it's not. I'm going to change it.
Okay.
All right, Renee, what trait do you like most about yourself?
that I love to have fun. I will find laughter in any situation. Um, and I just want to enjoy life.
That's a good trait. Those of us who can laugh will, I believe, will live longer, will be healthier, will have less stress, will eliminate the negatives and the negative people from our lives because, for one reason, if they're not bringing a smile to your face, the other part of life is not that enjoyable.
Exactly.
That's right. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's good to see you. I wish I could hug you. And I do. And as I said, I want to thank you for being my friend when I lived in Denver. I want to thank you for continuing to be my friend. I will get to Denver another day sometime soon. Right now, I just don't want to get on a plane, but I could drive to Denver. I drove here and I said, you know what? I could drive back to Denver.
Right.
So for my audience, God allowing, I will be back here next Tuesday, 2 o'clock Central Pacific Standard Time. Please go to Amazon.com and purchase Cozyisms, The Art of Paying Attention. I have 2 self-published books on there. And I like to conclude this show every week with saying, sometimes, folks, when we know better, we do better. Renee, I will give you a call in a few minutes. Don't go far. And again, I love you and thank you for being our guest.
Love you too, Cozy.
And there's a leave studio button at the bottom.
Okay, I will find it.